Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Foundation Software webinar. My name is Patrick Smith. I'm a regional sales manager over here at Foundation. And today we are going to look into the payroll functionality within Foundation Software. I appreciate everybody's time today. You're all in listen-only mode. You can hear me. I can't hear you. So this is going to be a quick one today. Figure about 15, 20 minutes. We're going to go through a little crash course of the payroll module. And if there's any kind of questions as we go through the presentation, you can key those into the little question panel over in the GoToWebinar control panel, and should be able to pick off a couple of those toward the tail end of the presentation, see if we might be able to help with those questions. You can just enter the questions as we go through, and then I'll again, just sort of address a couple of them toward the end of the presentation. So we'll dive right into things. Like I said, it's going to be a bit of a crash course today. For anyone that's familiar with Foundation, you know that we do the accounting. We've got mobile timekeeping. We do some project management as well. So figure we're full back-end accounting with some other options on top of that. So a lot of you are familiar with the program. You've seen it before. This may be new to some of you. If there's any Foundation clients that are on the call here, if you're using our payroll module, probably not going to get a ton out of this webinar. Again, it's just going to be a general overview of kind of what we can do from a payroll standpoint. So we'll dive right into it. The menu that you're seeing here, this is what a user would see when they log into Foundation. Now, like I'd mentioned, we'll do all of the accounting. So we've got the base accounting modules up top here. We've got these additional modules here in the middle, which a lot of them are very trade specific. And then project control, you can see we're into the operation side of things, like project management and scheduling and so on. Navigation and payroll, so everybody can follow along or within the system. These modules here in bold, daily maintenance and reports are your sub-menus. So day-to-day entry under the daily menu, setup under the maintenance menu, reports, pretty self-explanatory to run the various reports within the software. So let's get into a little bit of setup of payroll. Now, standard cookie cutter payroll, perfectly fine with, but we do cater to a lot of the complex payrolls out there, union, prevailing wage. That's really what we're all about, being in the construction industry, which is all we do. So any of these complexities behind payroll, with different rates and fringes, deductions, certified payroll reporting, that is very much in our wheelhouse. So I'm going to start with an employee setup here. And when an employee is created within Foundation, you'll see here there's different tabs across the top here. So this general tab, this is the employee's basic info, their name, their address, defaults, what department do they typically work in, what trade, labor trade do they typically work as, and these are just defaults that would feed into a time card. Only my examples here. These would cater to your particular company. For anybody that were to use Foundation, during the implementation, we'd help you build these lists out and configure each one of these employees. Now, again, I'd mentioned the union payroll. So if there are unions involved, for any union contractor out there, multi-union, multi-state as well, that's very doable, very common within our program, within our user base. So any kind of multi-union, multi-state, we do handle very well. Now up top here, if we go to the deductions tab, this is where we can see withholding, both federal, state, local as well. Any contractors out there that live or work in states that have local taxes, like Ohio, where we're located, we do have local tax withholding and calculations as well. And then, of course, your miscellaneous deductions, your child support, 401k, again, those would be catered to your company as well. With 401k in mind, if there's any employer contribution, any kind of match, that would calculate automatically. We do have direct deposit within the program as well. We can pay by check, we can pay by direct deposit, could be a combination within each company. Half the employees have checks, half are direct deposit, very doable as well. And we accrue time off if need be. So PTO, sick time, vacation time, have as many what we call accrual codes as you'd like. And these can even be set up ahead of time. Maybe the employee graduates to different plans based on their employment anniversary, milestones. It would just know when to kick in that next plan based on the effective dates here, without the user having to come in here and manually bump them up to that next plan. For those of you that are 50 plus full-time employees, the ACA forms, the 1095, the 1094, those are built into our program as well. They can be printed, they can be submitted electronically. That can come straight out of Foundation. So like I said, employee record, that's really sort of what drives how things feed into a time card. But you can see here the basic information against that employee. Now, from a union prevailing wage standpoint, another piece of the setup here that I like to show. So let's say that you're a union contractor and you're working with Local 6 and you've got your various labor trades and different pay rates. We do have an effective date here. So when those new rates kick in for that Local 6, they can be set up ahead of time with the effective date. The system would know, okay, let's go ahead and apply those rates based on that effective date. Another example of the user not having to pop in here and put those rates in right on that date, do it ahead of time, and then the system knows when to kick those rates in. And the same can be said for the deductions and fringes. So any kind of benefits, here's my Local 38, electrician trade, D for deduction, F for fringe. These would be customizable based on each union requirement, and we've got the effective date here as well. Same concept as that base rate. So with that in mind, the setup of payroll is critical. That's the key to it. Once all this stuff is configured behind the scenes, then from a day-to-day entry standpoint, just automates the process. So I'm going to pop in here to enter a time card, and this will give everybody a pretty good feel for the data entry within Foundation. Now, this is if somebody were to enter directly into the program as opposed to using the mobile timekeeping app, which I'm going to get to here in a minute. So this would be a manual time card, comes in from the field. Here's Rick Stevens. Rick is working the Lake County job. Now, we do in Foundation have the ability to cost code accounting transactions like time cards. So anybody that's looking to cost code their labor, in this case, Rick is performing demolition, and he's on that job doing demo 8 hours a day the entire week. Plug those hours in, press enter. Now it's going to pull in the rest of that information by default right into the time card, including pulling that labor trade as a default from the employee record, and then subsequently pulling in either that union or that prevailing wage rate for the non-union companies out there that are working prevailing wage. If that employee were to change trades, let's say for the last day, they're working as a foreman instead of a standard electrician, now it's going to pull in the foreman rate. So any kind of complexities here, you could have different jobs with different rates. The employee could earn 5 different rates in one day based on the job that's selected and based on the labor trade that's applied as well. So it's really employee and job driven. On the employee record, you indicate their home union, or we'll call it their home prevailing wage jurisdiction. And then when the job is set up, indicate that job jurisdiction. Then the system knows what rates to pull. As an example, if I go to a different job, you see here, now it's pulling in that electrician rate for this job, whereas the electrician rate for this other job is different. So mixing and matching pay rates here, no manual entry needed. The system will just do the work for you. So all of that in mind, those numbers are feeding into the respective payroll reports, including certified payroll. We do have electronic formats that are built in. So anyone out there that needs to submit to certain states have their own requirements, certain websites are used like LCP Tracker or EMARS or Ashtoware. So we've got these formats that are built into our program. LCP Tracker is a pretty common one. Our system will just create that file, and then you get to the LCP website, you upload it, you wipe your hands clean. Whoever you're working for, they would then download it from that LCP website without anyone having to key numbers straight into that LCP website. It's a file upload, very much automated. Again, same for any of these other formats that we have built in. Now, if you were to go to the printed format instead of the electronic, then these can be printed directly out onto a blank piece of paper. This is your standard WH-347, your federal form. We will generate the signature page as well. And same with the electronic. Any state-specific formats, these are built in as well. You just select what you need out of the drop-down, and then the system would print accordingly. So again, just picking one of these off at random. Here is the state of Nevada certified payroll format. Again, just kind of grabbing these at random here. So that would be automated. Minority compliance, EEO, these same concept, different formats, federal, states. So if I were to pop in here, and let me just get some dates in, get you some good data. All right, so another example of right onto a blank piece of paper. These are just automatically generated by way of Foundation. And that is all the way down to quarterlies, local, state, union reports, W-2s, W-3s at the end of the year. So this is a full payroll module from start to finish, all the way down to those W-2s. That would apply to anybody that's doing payroll in-house. For those of you that would prefer to outsource payroll, many of you may know that we have a sister company over here, Payroll for Construction, that works as a payroll service. So anybody out there that needs to potentially use Foundation for construction accounting, get that labor expensed directly through this payroll module, but maybe you don't want to process the payroll in-house, you don't want to pay the taxes, you don't want to do your W-2s manually, all that data could potentially feed over to our payroll service, Payroll for Construction. We would then take it from there, again, for anybody that's not wanting to go through that legwork on their own. Okay, so I'd mentioned the mobile app. We call that Foundation Mobile, and this is something that can be used out in the field by way of individual employees, or a lot of times it's a supervisor foreman that's looking to enter for a crew, as an example. So a couple different avenues here in the way of who would potentially use the mobile app. And this I'm running on a laptop, so you can see I can navigate through my traditional menu. I can move around on via these various icons. For those that use phones and tablets, which is the more common method, then you just see the the different icons that would apply. Security can be set in here as well, so users can only access whatever you give them access to. And the mobile app does have more than just payroll. For those that are running heavy equipment, those that are inventory intensive, we can do equipment entries, material transfers. But just for the sake of today, we'll focus on the time cards. If you were to have each employee that's doing their own thing, clocking in and out is a common method. So you could have the employee clock in, you can have them clock out. We do have geotagging available. So if you're looking to see where they were when they clocked in this case, Donald sitting in his driveway, half a mile away from that job site when he clocked in, that would apply if each employee is sort of on their own. We also have what we call single time card. That could be that employee entering their own time, or that could be a supervisor foreman entering time for the crew. Again, completely up to you. A third method outside of the clocking in and the single time card, which would be employee by employee, we have what we call the grid time card. And this is pretty applicable for those that are running multiple cost codes, meaning a supervisor foreman could start a new time card for whatever job they're on. So let's say I'm a foreman on job 1. Here's my default crew. Remove employees, add employees, make those adjustments on the fly, determine whatever codes apply to that day, and then single point of entry here. We've got the crew on the left. We've got these codes across the top here. Now that supervisor foreman can break those hours down into these various cost codes without having to go employee by employee, cost code by cost code. You just hammer all this out at once, and then everything feeds into the program, provided it's approved. So a lot of times it's a supervisor that's entering time for a crew. Maybe a project manager wants to approve that time. Upon approval, now it feeds into Foundation. Then the user can process payroll, get everybody paid, or potentially click a button within Foundation to submit to our payroll service. Then we take it from there get the employees paid, get those taxes paid, the whole payroll process with the quarterlies and W-2s as well. All right, so again, total crash course here. We've got the payroll entry within the program. We've got the mobile app that can feed into the payroll module. Regardless of how it's entered, all those reports are auto-generated. And just to give everybody a little peek here at where those numbers ultimately go, that feeds straight into job costing. Labor is allocated, burden is allocated, and I'm going to jump into what we call our executive dashboard here to give everybody a general feel for, okay, now that I've entered these time cards, how do I see those numbers on the cost reports? So the concept here behind the dashboard is, hey, how are we doing overall? Let's get a snapshot of all of our jobs that are currently active. And then this is all about the drill down. So if I click this little button that says View Report, it's going to take all these jobs off of this little graphical interface here and drill down into your WIP schedule. So the WIP, the over-under billing, the bonding reports, very much automated here. A user can then click any job straight off of the WIP schedule and see a summary of that job, contract amount, what's been billed, estimated cost, actual cost, change orders, percent complete. So this is a little summary of that one job we clicked into. Now, if I click this link that says job cost detail, it's going to take our estimated cost and our actual cost and break those down into the various cost codes that I mentioned earlier. And just my examples, they're customizable, they're unlimited. Each client has their own preferences for cost codes, only my examples. And then you'll see here, if I click any of these cost codes, here's the breakdown of labor for that code, materials, subcontract, equipment, burden. So with payroll in mind, raw labor is allocated to that job and that cost code, as is burden, taking into account workers' comp rates, unemployment rates, general liability, FICA that you're paying as an employer, fringes. All those numbers calculate, they'll follow the labor to the job and code based on how the time card is coded. And then ultimately, you can drill into that granular transaction level. If I want to see how this 4,200 in labor breaks down, click labor, and now you're seeing all those transactions that fed directly in from that payroll module by way of those time card entries, whether they were entered right into the software or by way of that mobile timekeeping app. So just a little taste of what we can do from a job cost standpoint. Again, not that that's really the focus today, with payroll being the topic here, but that's kind of where those numbers go in the end. All right, so let's hop over to see if there's any questions that came in. Again, we'll pick off a couple of those. And once we get through this, everybody's going to get a recording of the presentation emailed over to them. And for those that do want to maybe dig a little bit deeper here, you can feel free to reach out. We'll get you on the calendar for more of like a one-on-one type demo presentation. So just know that that's always an option if you want to schedule something and get on the calendar here. All right, so let's see what we have with these questions. All right, so a question came in, do you have scheduling for employees? We do. So we have an app that we call Crew HQ, and that allows for scheduling the employees. They can be assigned to different jobs, different tasks, and it's a notification to the employee as well. So they would get either an email, or most use a text message option. So they get a text message, hey, Joe, you're going to this job on this day to perform this task. And then that employee can tap a little link on that text message to see their calendar for the week. So that is part of what we call Crew HQ. It's an app that we have that allows for that employee scheduling. And another question to sort of piggyback off of that is how do the employees sign their time card? That's an option that we have within Foundation Mobile as well. So the employee can come in here, and let me just pop up a date where I've got some good info if you bear with me. All right, so let's say Kevin checks in at the end of the day and goes through a little Q&A, which is customizable. These are my examples. Okay, Kevin, did you take a lunch break? Yes. Were you injured? No. Disclaimer that you're seeing here, this is also customizable. And then that employee can sign off on that timesheet. That's the verification. Now, when a time card report is run within Foundation, user has the ability to drill down and see that signature. So it doesn't just stay here in the mobile app. That would feed over into the software as well, so the signature can be accessed by way of those time card reports. All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, question came in. Can Foundation run a consolidated multi-company? You can run multi-company through Foundation. Yeah, there's no limitation there. We do have consolidated financial reporting. So yeah, anybody that's looking to roll those financials up into a single master financial statement, rolling multiple companies up together, that's definitely an option here. We also have divisions within a single company. So if it's under one EIN, okay, here's different divisions within that same company. That can be done in addition to the multi-company and multi-consolidated reporting. All right, and another question, this is to piggyback off of the signature, how many questions can be added? That is 3 questions. So you can add up to 3, and then you've got that disclaimer as well on top of those 3 questions. Okay, and then one last question, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. If outsourcing payroll, can the certified payroll reports still be run within Foundation? And the answer to that is absolutely, because those time cards are still going through Foundation, whether it's outsourced to our payroll service or even a third party like an ADP or a Paychex, whoever, as long as the time cards feed into Foundation and those hours are allocated to the appropriate job, then yes, then those certified reports are always available regardless of doing it in-house, using our service, using a third-party service. Yeah, as long as those hours are entered against the job, good to go on that side. All right, very good. So let this all digest, and like I said, keep an eye out for that email. So everybody's going to get that email with the recording, and then you can reach out at your convenience. Questions, you can touch base by email, by phone. So you're going to have my information on the email that everybody's going to receive. And I've talked to a lot of you folks before. Again, this is Patrick. I see a lot of names I recognize here. So a lot of you already have my info. If there's anything you need, you reach out at your convenience, and we'll take it from there. All right. Appreciate everybody's time. You all enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk soon. Take care. Bye.